Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7. Today we're going to be doing a unit review on Charles and also his artifact. I wanted to get this review out before the banner ends, so those who are kind of like on the edge of whether or not you should be pulling for Charles, hopefully this review would do it justice. Now again, he is level 41, so as in a unit showcase, he's not going to be doing too well, but I think he still has a lot to offer, so I will do a run, maybe in a story event or something, because I still have to grind it in a second. But first, I want to talk about his artifact. So in my news video, if you watched the Reading Between the Lines premiere episode number 1, so my news video on Charles and his artifact, you will know that I said at that time his artifact may seem to be worthless and I couldn't see any kind of usage for him, or actually usage for any other knight, in fact. But now that it's been released, and I'm still waiting to see what kind of buffs are available in this. If you read the skill description, a random buff for 1 turn. I'm still kind of wondering what random buffs are available in this, because one, if this artifact can proc something like Moonlight Chloe's like revive, that could be kind of interesting, like auto revive. That could be kind of interesting, but again, if you see this, it's a buff for 1 turn. So like if let's say if you're using Charles in PvP and GVG scenarios and you use this artifact, it's very easy to just kind of like neglect him, especially if someone is counting his skill rotation. So like if his next turn is not going to be a threatening skill, they're probably just going to ignore him if he has auto revive. But again, I'm not quite sure what buffs are actually available in this artifact. But the deal breaker for me is actually that to get it to 100% proc rate, you needed to get it to a max level. Now, I don't think anyone in their right mind will be using those bottles of knowledge to be breaking the limit, and unless you're really unlucky, well, you can consider yourself lucky, I guess, if you want to max out this artifact, you won't be pulling multiples of these artifacts just to get 100% proc rate. Again, it could be anything. It could be a useless one, it could be a decent buff, but at the same time, the deal breaker for me is the 1 turn. So 1 turn to me is not enough, especially when we get into Charles's kit. And what I'm going to do right now is it's definitely not enough. So ever since his release, during the news video, I did say that his whether or not like he's like an essential, he's good to pull, like he's really cool or whatnot, is really based on his damage modifiers. Because I saw him as a potential a damage dealer more than just a tanky knight. I was saying that either he has extremely fast speed, like Clury level speed, or he is a damage dealer based on his kit. Like, he brings in a lot of supportive aspects, and I think at the end of the day, now that we have released his stats, his base stats, so you can check it out in the journal if you haven't. His base stats, he has generally, I think, so Kyle was telling me he has actually lower base HP than someone like Luna. So for a knight, it's very low base HP, pretty decent speed. I believe it's at a 109, I think, without you know, with max enhancements, max awakenings rather. And then we also have his damage mods. Now his attack is lower than someone like Sid. Sid is probably like one of the most like lethal thieves, but that has the lowest base attack. So it's really hard to get Sid's attack really high without sacrificing other stats. Charles suffers with the same problem, in my opinion. He has kind of like low everything, but his kit is extremely strong. So for a knight, low HP, low defense, and for a damage dealer, like pretty low attack, and also like decent speed, but not top tier speed. So he's kind of like in between. So for me, when we're talking about builds, and I'm also going to get into that, it's going to be really tough to kind of decide how you want to build Charles. I think Charles is going to be one of those units where you kind of be torn apart because he really needs like every single stat. And again, it depends on what you're using him for. He really ideally starves for every single stat at a very high number for him to be very, very effective. But I think the reason why he has low base stats is because of his kit, and I think his kit is extremely powerful. So let's quickly look at his skills here. Actually, I'm gonna go Actually, we could stay here. Let's go with the S3 first. So we actually have his damage mods release data mined. So I'm gonna read them out here in case you guys don't have access to the data mine, but you can definitely look into it. I think it's mostly tracked on a Google Doc at this point of this video. His skill 3, his S3, incredibly strong, stronger than Luna Soul Burnt S3 given some circumstances. So if you read the skill description, it says attack all enemies with Sword Storm, so it's AoE damage, is very good already, increases attacks for all allies for 2 turns, and then additionally increases defense for caster for 2 turns for himself. So that's after you awaken him. That's his S3 buff. Of the caster for 2 turns, and when there are 3 or fewer enemies, damage dealt increases as enemies become fewer. Now we do have a base damage mod of 1.2. 1.2 not super high. It's actually pretty weak, but that's when you have four targets, 4 or more targets. So if you have I think in the game, I don't think you ever run into 5 targets. I think fire altar when you fight the boss, I think he has 5, including himself. But if you run anywhere under from 3 on, he has an additional damage modifier. So if there's 3 targets, it's 53.4% more to his 1.2. If it's 2 targets, it's 80.1%. And if it's 1 target only, it's 106.8%. Someone was doing the calculation yesterday. I think it was VPP on Discord, and he was saying that's about 2.48 times damage modifier. A Soul Burnt Luna S3 is a 2.2 times. Now obviously Luna still would outpower him just in sheer because of her passive, her S2, and just because how you would gear her, she's much more straightforward in terms of damage dealer. But if you want to use Charles as like a tanky bruiser in a way, he can fit that role if you're facing 1 target. So I think mostly in PvE circumstances, he might really shine. In PvP circumstances, you know, by the time you whittle down the team to 1, it's gonna be a pretty decent, like, easy target. It's either you have like either 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 in PvP, 4 of your heroes left and only 1 of their healers or maybe tanks left. So it's not gonna be too significant. You're not gonna be seeing too much, you know, effect with his, like, you know, 1 target damage modifier, right? So it's kind of hit and miss to me. But I think in priority, if you're going to invest into Charles, definitely reduce that 1 turn cooldown, so at least get it to +3. If you want the extra 10% damage dealt, I don't know how worth it is. Based on what I just said, on where you're going to be using the S3, I don't know if it's important to actually get it all the way down. The turn 1, reducing the cooldown is important because this makes him like a good buffer as well. Remember, increased attack buff, everyone loves that, and it's an AoE damage. It's very good for PvP scenarios when you need to knock someone out of stealth. That could be very effective. So like against like Assassin Kali, against like Kisei if she's got her S3 off, against other people, like even people with Wind Rider and successfully killed one of your heroes. S2 is also really good. Again, it's a 1.5 to 1.85 times damage modifier, and the damage modifier depends on how much depends on how much buffs you currently have. Now this is the case, this is the point where I wanted to say Justice for All, his artifact is not great, because as it read, it says 1 buff only. So if you had that on him and it did proc 100%, let's say you got it to max, it procced 1 buff. It doesn't matter what it is. It's going to be bad if you don't get a second buff on him, because his buffs to increase the damage needs to require from 1 buff beyond. So the first buff doesn't increase your damage modifier, only from the second one counting onwards. So if you, let's say you use Diane, you know, she's really fast, she can get the buffs up really quick as someone that you want to use for support, as a healer, and also to buff up Charles. It's not going to work for 2 turns when you're waiting for her cooldown if you're doing it properly. And if you don't, you know, use his S3 and time it properly, you're not going to be able to bridge the gap. So then that artifact becomes almost a waste. Now, even if you do max stack his buffs up to, I think, 6, so 5. So you can max stack up to 6 buffs, but only 5 of them will count towards the damage modifier. You're still looking at only a 1.85 times damage modifier. So it's not extremely high, but it's still pretty good. A 1.85 times modifier is stronger than someone like Sid's S3, stronger than an average Luna's damage in terms of modification. But remember, modification comes from your attack, and then you have to calculate the critical hit damage after too. So it's, again, even if you get 6 buffs on him, the damage is great, but is he going to be a good and solid damage dealer? That I'm not 100% sure yet. I need to do more tests, but looking from the story event, he seems to have potential. But again, I think he's going to be kind of like this really hard unit to build. Now, when you are investing into S2, someone was bringing this up yesterday. I thought you only need to get to the S +3, but I do think you need to get +4. Again, I do see his role more of like damage dealer / support, and a very good disruptor. He can dispel buffs as well, as you can see here. So he has an 80% chance to dispel the buffs. So for those of you who might be new to the game, if you see an orange text, so the 80% you see there is an orange, it means it's an active text. That means this will be updated as you skill enhance. So if you get to +4, that's 2 10% effect changes, effect chances rather. So you get 100%, and I would say that this is necessary if you run him for PvP and GVG scenarios. 100% dispel chance, you want that because you're still going to be rolling effectiveness versus their effect resistance. So you don't want to be rolling like a 80% chance or a 90% chance. You have that 10% room for error, and then rolling a bad effect resist versus effectiveness roll. So you don't want that at all. So I would say his S2 mainly will be used for the dispel, but yeah, we'll get into that in a bit more. S1, very good synergy with the S2. So let's read it. It says attacks with the giant sword with a 50% chance to decrease attack for 1 turn, 25% chance to activate smash. So his S2, regardless of the cooldown. So it almost works like a passive. It's like a passive and active skill. 3-turn cooldown, not that bad either. If you time it properly, you can actually get multiple smashes in, which is really good. Also, if you notice this, the very end here, and a 25% chance to activate smash, but effect chance is doubled if the enemy is buffed. Now the effect chance is doubled, I think it refers to just the proc rate, because that's my finding, at least in story, when those enemies have kind of like buffed themselves, I seem to be proccing the S2 more. Now again, if you have to kind of really time him. If you have his S2 on cooldown and you have an enemy buffed, make sure Charles is well buffed. So I'm not quite sure exactly skill rotation you want to use in this. Maybe you put in a Faithful Strike if it's not an enemy that would die to Faithful Strike, and then you go to Smash. You get a 50% chance to proc the S2, which is amazing to me. Now, what's really funny is that this S2 can be procced by the S1 from a counter. This has been proven by Doppels very early on, so shout out to Doppels there. And I did prove it as well when I was running it. So I did see it, and it's 100%, it's for sure. It's really interesting to see an enemy, if you can't kill them, they buff themselves and then hit you, and then you come back and dispel their buff while decreasing attack. Again, a 50% chance until you enhance it, and then also go with smash. It pretty much kills all the, at least the story event guys, pretty easily. Again, skill enhancement. If you're gonna skill enhance it, make him effective, you're gonna really use him, invest in him, get to at least +3. Again, damage dealt is not a good one to invest in for slash specifically, because it's only a 1 times damage modifier. So it's very, very low. Not even a 1.1, just a 1. So you don't even really want the raw damage in here unless you can get him extremely strong in attack and critical hit damage. But I would even say that's a waste. So the effect chance, a 60% effect chance to decrease attack, very useful. I would say more so in PvP and GVG scenarios, especially if you are running counter artifacts. So I have Elbrus Ritual Sword on him right now. chance to counterattack when an ally is attacked, not one time per caster turn. So he can cast it multiple times. So if you're running this in arena and let's say 4 units attack, sorry, all 4 heroes attack someone else in your team, but they can't die, all right, so they have to survive, you will be able to counter attack all 4 hits if you proc it, right? An AoE skill on your team, if you're in PvP again, I believe, and I can't confirm this for sure, and maybe the guys on stream can kind of fill me in, I'm not 100% sure on this, I believe an AoE skill, so let's say a Bologna does her S3 on your team, I believe it is a 14% chance, so what I have here on artifact, times 4, not 4 times 14% chance, but rather you roll the 14% chance 4 times. I believe that's the case, because every time I get hit with AoE, either I'm just extremely lucky, or what I said was true. You do proc to counter. So AoE definitely would be really good, and we're kind of like in an AoE meta anyway, with Tenebria and Bologna trying to set up the defense breaks, and someone like Purgus, etc. So I think this is really good to have. Most likely a best in slot for Charles until I can think of something else. I don't think he would benefit from something like Aureus. So let's, should be 3 times out 4. Oh, right, yes, sorry. Aline just corrected me here. Yeah, I brain farted a bit as I was rambling. He should, yes, 3 times the proc chance, not 4, because he doesn't count. Yeah, so obviously, yes, it does. It wouldn't work for himself. Yes. But I'm not 100% sure on whether I said or not was true. Like, would it only count to 1 ally and then roll the chance there? I'm not 100% sure if you hit with an AoE. But it's been my finding, I either get really lucky at RNG on the counter, or it works as I said. So three rolls of a 14% chance, or whatever level your Elbrus Ritual Sword is at. So we're taking a look at some builds now. Right now, this is an unforgivable build. Please don't laugh at this build. This is completely just for the story, for me to grind and level. I am carrying him with stronger units, so I'm not using him exactly like this. But the critical hit damage is pretty high there. No critical hit chance, or whatever. The critical hit damage won't really work. Attack is really low. But, you know, some people have been theory crafting, like, you know, what if people go attack him first? Now, what I said, roughly, if you want to build him kind of like a balanced, you would most likely try to get like maybe roughly like 70, maybe 80% critical hit chance. Try to aim for 200% critical hit damage, because you really need him to do more damage if that's what you're going for. Attack, I don't think you could get anywhere as like 3k without sacrificing everything else. Remember, he has a lower base attack than Sid. It's very hard to get his multipliers going. It's 900, like mid 900s, but I think like low mid 900s, so like 940. I could go into the journal here, but I think it's just a waste of time. You guys can find that out for yourself. HP, he won't get super high either. So it's like I'm roughly thinking that, you know, for a decent build, get his speed up to like maybe 140, critical hit chance 70% to 80%, critical hit damage, try to aim for 200 there. Attack, aim for like 2000s, 2100 to 2400 ish. Defense, I would say that don't even focus on that. A defense break would just break you anyway, it ruin you. But health, focus on that a bit. I think for a knight, for him to benefit from these knight artifacts, you can't have him dying, right? You can't have him dying. I would aim for maybe like 12k health. That's, like I said, that's a lot to demand from him when he has a very low base stats. It's very problematic. I'm like theory crafting his stats, his gear, and I don't think you can reach all of those. But I think if you do have really good substat rolls, really good like all level 85 gear, there's a potential you can reach somewhat close. But again, like I said, you can build them for an incredibly high speed to get him to dispel quicker, let's say in arena fights. But I think for PvE fights, you don't really need that much speed. And attack, you know, it depends on how you use him. Is he going to be just to dispel? Is he going to be for survival? I'm not quite sure there. Oh, you know what? I did forget. Terror just mentioned here. I forget. You need to get his effectiveness up to 50% effectiveness if you're gonna run him in PvP. Terror has he says a 15k HP, 2.5k attack, 160 speed, 70 crit, 50% effectiveness. That's his ideal build there. I think you would lower your critical hit damage there for sure, but yeah, I think to each their own. Effectiveness, I would say, you know what, recall what I just said, lower maybe critical hit damage for effectiveness. Effectiveness is probably going to be probably the most important stat. That's what his entire kit is basically striving on, is for you to actually make the proc rate work and proc rate work. And also, what's the point of maligoring him if you're not going to get his effectiveness high? So scratch what I said, for sure, 100%. Get his effectiveness high. That's what he really, really needs. Now, in terms of sets, this is very, in debate. Depending on what you want to get into him, I mean, everyone knows how to build. If you want him for speed set with speed boots. If you want him to be decent speed, still go speed set, but with maybe some other type of set. Again, if you want a crit rate high, I think you do need to run a crit set for sure, but I don't think he needs to be running anything like a rage set, perhaps immunity set, depending again if you want to do first turn GVG and PvP. But I would definitely not recommend using Charles in a defense team. I think as a defense team, he's too easily counterable. So even if he has like an immunity set, someone can counter with another Charles and try to push it, make sure your Charles doesn't get a turn. So Terra here giving him his advice. I'm gonna read it out. Speed set, health set, or health set, health set, health set, all health, but with would you say with speed substats then? Speed substat, HP and attack. See, this is what I mean. It's very, very depending on how you want to use him. Again, he has the modifiers to make him good, but then you'll kind of be sacrificing other stats. Definitely not a crit damage necklace. I put it on because of it completes my counter set here. The counter set's kind of interesting. Again, if you do run a counter set, you would mostly, I think, use it for PvE. Put him in the front lines, get him relatively tanky, and the counter set could, proc his S2 while he's using S1, etc. So it's kind of fun. Yeah, it depends on your substat. So Terra is saying here, if you have a lot of speed substats, go with health boots. I would definitely say that for sure. Health boots, maybe attack ring, maybe health ring. Again, it really depends. Anyways, I think that's what I want to talk about, at least for Charles, my unit review here. Hopefully it was unbiased. I myself, I think he's really cool. His animation is really awesome. So actually, I'm going to go into the story event here and just go and do a fight. So we show off his animation, listen to some voiceover, just to experience him as a unit itself. Because, theory crafting, talking about him, even if you don't own him, yes, you can go hit the punching bags in your hero's journal, but I think it would really be cool to actually test them out here. So again, he has like no crit rate, so it's not going to be like extremely exciting, and I still need to grind my story event here, so I'm going to go with normal, something easier for my team. I'll go with Terror here. Terror, I'm going to show off in case my units die. We'll bring you here. I'm going to bring Yuna here. She is ungeared. And Tenebria is also ungeared, level 48. Only DN is, so technically I'm gonna most likely lose a unit. But I want to show, let's see here. That's true. Terra's like, everyone did use him for the side story. That is true. Oh, one thing for people to know is that if you did use him in the side story, you're just like, oh wow, Charles is so strong. Remember that he gets a buff, right? So if you use like a friend's Charles and even use in the regular story events, he's not as strong as as you think, because he has 3 buffs going in because of those passes for the story event. I'm just gonna hit them normally, not try to kill them.
Where do I start?
I'm gonna buff up Charles all the way to the max here.
Were you waiting?
He's near 200 critical hit damage, so it could be interesting to see his S2 here. So I'm gonna do it first and not his S3. His S2 has a pretty cool animation. I love that hold he has there when you smack them up.
How cute.
So if I did the critical hit, that would be good. I should have brought in Tywin actually, just to buff up his critical. I'm gonna do a single target here. Yeah, the speed buff for Yuna. But I should have brought in Tywin, to be honest. I should have.
My goddess. Immature.
So I'm gonna keep his S3 for this last guy.
Were you waiting long?
My Yuna shouldn't be able to kill him. She has like no gear on. Yeah.
I'll show you how it's done.
So S3, if you soul burn it, it extends the buff by 1 duration, and I think they didn't go with like soul burn and you know, increase attack, because like I said, his damage modifier is already insane. Remember, at this point we have 1 enemy left, so it's a 2.48 times physical damage modifier. So we're gonna do that.
For King Arthur, I would give my life.
Only 5.9. Again, remember, judging from my attack, it's not that great. 5.9k.
Guide you through the light.
But I'm kind of hoping they would attack and kind of proc Elbrus Ritual Sword, so you guys can see if he can proc the S2 here. I'm gonna try to hit this guy. Shouldn't kill him.
You may try to define.
So remember, if they are buffed, there's extra proc chance.
This is what the goddess wills. May those evils be punished.
Yeah, there you go. Elbrus Ritual Sword. Let's see if we proc that S2. No. 25% chance. It's about a Dust Devil, like mid-tier Dust Devil.
Let's advance
So
together.
it's not always, and you have to also run that proc rate on your Elbrus Ritual Sword procking too. So there's two walls of procs that you have to deal with before you can actually see some cool stuff happening. And it's circumstantial to them being buffed. So again, it's really cool, but you know, whether he's like a must pull or not, I would say you don't need to. But if you do get him, I think he has some potential for some PvP counter comps. Let's put this in here.
Please save us. Were you waiting long?
We got Corvus. So Corvus is kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying, these story events are always like
It's time to draw my sword.
giving you enemies that you're weak to, so you miss a lot. So it's kind of like, where's the selling point of you pulling? You know, if it was like worth versus like some kind of water hero or ice hero, that would be cool. Let's see if you miss it. Okay, you proc S2. So you can see that proc there. That's pretty cool. I'm glad it did it.
This is what the goddess
So remember, because he is buffed, right? Corvus is buffed, so it has that 50% proc rate. So once I proc that Elbrus Ritual Sword, that went off there. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Let's do buff again.
You pitiful beings. Death.
It didn't dispel him though, because it missed. So his dispel is not like Clury, where Clury's dispel is not a hit. So it can dispel any element. So even if you're fire element against Cleary, you can dispel him. But for Charles, his dispel is a hit. So you actually have to hit and not miss in order to actually benefit from it. So that is one thing that I forgot to mention in his review that I can only get from this organic gameplay.
This is what the goddess will. Give me strength.
Oh yeah, so we keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So versus fire heroes, Charles is gonna suffer, I think.
Watch carefully.
I'm gonna attack this guy. I'm gonna try to extend Corvus, so if Corvus can get to
I will
go.
guide you through the light.
I think I'm gonna kill him off. His level is too low. Well, anyways, that's that. I wanted to show off his animation, how he kind of works. Again, I'm not fully done gearing him. I think he has potential, and I think I will be running him in the arena, to be honest. I think I will be. His Ritual Sword counter to PvE with attack down is really good. Yes, it is. His attack break is one of the things... Well, attack breaks in general is one of the things that really sold me to Violet. Isn't Violet's like innate attack break like 65%? It's extremely high or something like that. That's what really like kind of drew me to Violet. It saved me so many times. Let's run one more before I end the video here. I think people who are watching this on YouTube who have probably done the review, you know, done with the review, they can probably like, you know, close this now. But you know, things might pop up as I'm doing this. I'm gonna bring in a stronger support unit here because I think these guys are too strong for my Charles. I'll bring in my Luna. Oh yeah, and then of course we got that update yesterday. So everyone who has the old gear that's level 85 has much stronger units now. My Luna got like an extra 10% critical hit damage. I think an extra, like, I don't know, like 100 or so attack or something like that. It's better than nothing.
Let's advance together. Ignite those evils.
His ritual sword counter on PvE with attack down is really good. Oh, yeah, that's what Tara was saying.
Do you believe in me?
Yeah, for sure. No crit Luna. Hey guys, no crit Luna's back.
Please, save us.
Okay, there you go. He procs. So that's cool, man. Look at that. So that's pretty cool. Again, that's with almost 200 times the damage modifier. So keep that in mind. So having those procs happen, at least in PvE, is really, really fun. So I think the build I'm using right now is extremely fun. I don't know if I get the proper substats for PvP, I might try it, but I doubt anyone would try to aim for Charles first. Maybe they would.
Together.
But again, the problem with PvP scenarios, if you run counter, is that if people are going to kill your Charles, they're going to try to one-shot him. So it's better that he survives.
Ridiculous.
Terror. I guess that 10% critical chance didn't help. No, it was critical hit damage. Did I say critical hit chance? She got 10% critical hit damage. More.
I will guide you through the light.
From the patch. Yeah, there you go. It missed. Wow, but it proc again. That's pretty good.
Don't be scared.
That's a 25% chance, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, they're not buffed. So, for him to proc it, that 25% chance, again, that's like a mid-tier Dust Devil. So, if you use Dust Devil quite a bit, you know that the proc rate is actually not that terrible. But, you know, I say that, and next time I go to Arena, Dust Devil doesn't proc for me forever. That would suck.
Try to defy me. Let's advance together.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna read this out. Terror is always making fun of me. He's just like, the concept of if you don't crit, no point of critical damage if it doesn't make it through. I do know that, bro. I know it. I'll swap it out when I'm really building him.
Immature.
Oh, right! Oh, VPP. What is the actual, what is the actual, okay, so yesterday on Discord, I'm gonna share the story for those of you who are actually invested in me talking here. But yesterday, someone, Leafa, posted like this Korean gear calculator, which is pretty cool, but you had to pretty much Google Translate it. And we were Google translating it, and we're not laughing, we're kind of laughing at the Google translation. So basically, critical hit rate, I believe, is chance of death, right? Is that what the thing was? It was hilarious. Critical hit rate is chance of death, and critical hit damage is like deadly damage or something. But there was a stat, and I don't know what it was. It says it's chance of pincer. It made me laugh really hard. I was talking to them on Discord, but in real life I was laughing. Chance of pincer made me laugh so hard. I think chance of pincer, based on the priority of the listing, it was dual attack chance, correct? Pincer is dual. Yeah, they're saying pincer is dual. So it's really it made me laugh so hard. It's like chance of pincer or probability of pincer or something like that. I was like laughing. I was like, what is this thing, man?
Be punished.
And yeah, anyways, it goes on. It's a long story. We have too much fun on Discord. Terror posted this like image of like this strategy thing. And never mind, it's too long. No one would understand me just talking about it, but it's hilarious.
Oh my!
I had a good time.
How cute.
But anyways, that Korean gear calculator thing apparently is really good. But I just don't want to invest my time like entering all my gears manually. You know, I just too lazy to do that.
Don't be scared.
Leaf was like, pincer is a Pokemon? Yes. Yes. Okay. Alright, I think I'm gonna end that there. So that's a pretty long one. My unit review on Charles and what I think about him. Hopefully it's done as done it justice. And for those of you who may be kind of like free to play or maybe on the fence of whether or not you should be pulling on it, hopefully I brought everything that I needed to bring to the table for you to make the decision whether or not you want to pull for him, whether or not you need him. Like I said, he doesn't bring any kind of new role. He's just a mix and mash of it. Smilegate so far has been pretty good, pretty decent at keeping like roles not like identical to another unit. Like they will have like different benefits, different niches, etc. Either by their elemental advantage or, you know, their skills and base stats. So anyways, I'm gonna end that there. Hopefully this has been helpful. So if you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.